Your permanent record. I'm 55, and nobody has ever asked me about the time I was sent to the principal's office when I was 16. I got a job and they didn't even bring up that I had my own assigned seat in detention. It's almost like I wasted all that cool kid cred. I'm 35 and I am about 90% sure I could just lie about having a bachelor's degree. Literally nobody has ever asked to see my diploma or thesis or anything. By this point in my life it's just assumed you have one if you say you do. Especially since I went to a really small college most people have never heard of. They'd never check that unless I was claiming a graduate degree maybe. Apart from infamous quicksand, I thought it would be a bigger problem being stuck in the Alps and having to drink alcohol from a St. Bernard necklace. I've been stuck in quicksand. I was backpacking and a buddy said, "Watch out for quicksand," as I went to filter some water. I laughed him off because I legit didn't think quicksand was real. A few minutes later, he was pulling me out. Swallowing chewing gum. Still waiting for that watermelon to grow out of my stomach. When I was 5, I did that many times and ended up with terrible constipation. I had to have X-rays for the doctors to check out what was going on. Our neighbor was a nurse and helped my parents give me an enema. I remember adults would always tell me as a kid it takes like 7 years to digest. I remember being so scared to swallow chewing gum because of that. When my 5th grade teacher told us that 6th grade would be a lot harder. My 8th grade teacher kept telling us how scary high school was and how unprepared we all were. She told us that freshmen were to be hunted at the beginning of the school year. She told us that we'd probably get beaten up just because we were new. She told us that we'd have to run from class to class because we'd be a target. She told us we'd all be back visiting her and saying how sorry we were and how much we miss middle school. Her source was her daughter who was like 3 years older than us. Fast forward to my first day of high school. I got assigned 2 seniors to show me around the school and be my buddy for the first couple of months. Literally one kid tried to mess with the freshmen and like the whole school was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I had an identical thing with school in general. Whenever we're on the verge of graduation, elementary school to secondary school to college, they would always talk about how teachers at the next level would have a tough love, we don't care attitude. There were some elements of truth, but a lot of what they said turned out to be laughably wrong. I think it was just meant to scare the true slackers straight. Every year of school, we were told that we better get serious because the next level would be harder. Culminating in actually being an adult with a job which would be hardest of all. You couldn't pay me to go back to the suffering I went through in school. Being an adult with a job is a breeze in comparison. I really thought the Bermuda Triangle would play a stronger role in my adulthood. Turning on the light in the car. Turns out it's not illegal but is actually distracting for the driver. So Dad could have just said, "The glare is distracting, don't have it on for long." My school made me believe that I would be set on fire frequently. It has obviously not happened yet. Most useful thing I learned from the fire safety stuff was how to check if something was hot without touching it. Hold the back of your hand near it and you can feel the radiant heat much better than any other way. Handy for me who has to occasionally handle pieces of metal of varying degrees of hotness. We learned stop, drop and roll. I didn't pay much attention. Years later, in my 20s, I caught on fire, panicked and started running around, increasing the flames. Thankfully a friend of mine chased me down, tackled me and rolled me around until the fire went out. If I caught on fire today I'd probably still do the wrong thing, lol. My parents both smoked before having kids, and my mom raised me on stories about how the first time she smoked a cigarette, she coughed so badly that she threw up. It made staying away from smoking cigarettes pretty easy. Because I didn't want to puke. Once I was in college, I brought up the story to her and she blinked like an owl caught in the sunlight. "Wait, you believed me?" she said. "I was just trying to get you to not smoke. If smoking made me vomit, why do you think I smoked for 15 years? Good job, Mom. I could definitely see throwing up the first time you smoke a cigarette, especially if it's a really strong one. Cigarettes taste horrible and the nicotine makes you feel lightheaded and nauseous if it's your first time. I didn't throw up, but I coughed my guts out. Same thing with the first time I tried weed, coughed for what felt like eternity. Talking to people online, and then meeting them. I would never have met my partner, got my job, had my hobby, had any of my friends. Traveled anywhere I got an Uber to if I hadn't. I swear my oldest friends are two people I met online. We was all chat moderators on Twitch and we kept in touch for the last 7 years. I was 13 when I met them, now I'm 20. Mad how time flies by. Getting written up at work. Turns out that permanent work record does not exist, and will not follow you from job to job for the rest of your life. If you are not a model student and don't have excellent grades, you will never amount to anything in life. That was drilled into me at a young age and stayed with me up until college. In the real world, no one gives a rat's ass. Now more people are quitting good and bad jobs just because of the toxic mentality it has placed on the workers. Having long hair as a man would mean I never get a job. I was told in DARE that people would constantly be offering me drugs and trying to get me high, and it would be a constant struggle to turn them down. Imagine my disappointment. How hard high school is. Teachers always said you would have to smarten up in high school and you would barely have time for anything. I crocheted my teacher a sweater for his dog in class once. I think I'll be okay. I barely did any homework in high school. Still graduated with a high 70% average, which AIUI is still pretty decent in Canada. So when they told me the same stuff about college, I didn't listen. Pro tip. At least for a STEM major, they mean it for college. You'll start to want babies when your body is ready to make them. If I didn't do everything that was expected of me, I'd end up flipping burgers. That turned out to be absolutely untrue. There's absolutely no shame in working in the food industry. Television was going to ruin my brain. Turns out that was the internet's job. The tables have turned because now I have to spend a portion of my time explaining to my parents that the stuff they read on Facebook isn't true. They like to argue about things that don't make sense, so whose brain really got scrambled by technology? Cracking knuckles causes arthritis. Lies. It's annoying to hear, but it doesn't cause arthritis. How likely it was for a tornado to plow into my elementary school. Pretty sure sitting on my knees in the hallway with my hands over my neck would not save me from a ceiling caving in. Dr. Donald Unger actually cracked the knuckles of his left hand at least twice a day for over 50 years whilst never cracking those on his right hand in order to prove his mother wrong. He never developed arthritis in either hand, and won an Ig Nobel Award for his efforts in 2009. Having a bad handwriting being a huge handicap for me in the future in my professional life. I've been working for 20 years now. Never had to write anything down using a pen beyond personal notes here and there, not meant to be shared. Same, I remember my mother telling me over and over again that if I had bad handwriting, when I got a job, everyone would assume I was stupid. Similarly, teachers telling me I had to be good at mental arithmetic, because I won't always have a calculator. Now I have beautiful handwriting that I never use, and I do always have a calculator. Peer pressure. Almost all the peer pressure I felt was actually self-pressure. Not going to college would make it impossible to have a fulfilling career. My parents often warned me about the dangers of credit cards. I was about 20 before I even found out that you could pay off your balance in full every month and actually make money in cashback rather than having to pay interest on every purchase you make. Marriage being difficult. Maybe I'm just lucky to have a great partner. But it's literally just communicating well and always maintaining respect and appreciation for your spouse. Have we had hard things happen? Of course. But marriage hasn't been hard. If anything, it's been the only thing that got us through the hard things. There was always this typical baby boomer, I hate my wife. And that is just not what or my friends' marriage is. Please subscribe and ring the notification bell for more.